Hello and welcome to Best Story Wins. I'm your host, Josh Ritchie, and today I'm here with TK. And our guest today is Ross Yoshida, who's the Senior Director of Design at the Los Angeles Dodgers. Ross, thanks for being on today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, us too. So Ross, you oversee graphic design at the Dodgers. Can you give us a quick overview of what your day-to-day looks like and what makes your role unique?
Well, part of the reason I enjoy my job really is the consistency of the inconsistency, if that makes sense. I'm definitely not a routine guy. One day I might be throwing myself into putting together an internal team for our seasonal branding campaign. That same day I might be discussing concepts for an odd field uniform 2 years down the line. I might be directing a photo shoot, designing a commemorative logo for an event or some anniversary next year. I could be in the middle of a fire drill. We call them fire drills, trying to find a solution to some last minute creative issue or graphic problem. In between, I'm communicating with my team, approving or providing feedback on their projects. And so I don't know. I don't think there's a typical day for me. Sometimes I show up at 8:30 a.m. Sometimes I show up at 11. Sometimes I leave at 4 and try to catch one of my daughter's softball games, and sometimes I leave at 11:30.
Yeah, that's really cool. And so, how do you and your team balance that diversity of projects? And I imagine there's sort of like an ebb and flow to your work, right? With the team being they operate on a season.
Yeah. So we have kind of a rhythm. People always ask me this question: Are you there? Are you at Dodger Stadium in the off season? And I'm like, yes, I have to be here in the off season. That's our busiest time. That's when we're getting ready for the next season. So like November through March is basically our busiest time of year. And then in that time, we're building our creative campaign for the next season, getting our promotional item lineup set for the next season, getting all of our collateral ready for the next season. But then during the season, we kind of have a rhythm. We're pumping out print ads, web ads. There's a few surprises baked into those, but it's very much a diverse project intake. Since I lead an in-house team, our clients are basically within the Dodger organization. There's a big range as far as projects and whom we service. I mean, think about the various arms of a sports team: marketing, corporate partnerships, PR, stadium ops, IT, of course, baseball operations, and the team itself. The projects are very diverse. I say a couple common threads are we're either supporting bringing in revenue with our creative, or we're enhancing the in-stadium or the in-person experience at Dodger Stadium somehow.
Oh, that's really cool. And then during the season, when you've done the hard work of sort of campaign planning, if you will, does it get into more of like a regular operating rhythm where each week is a little bit more predictable and you kind of know what to expect, or is it still constantly like there's things coming in? And are each of those clients coming at you guys kind of independently and you're all having to figure out workflow? How does that work?
Yeah, so absolutely. So yes, there is more of a rhythm once we get into the season. We know our schedule, obviously. The schedule comes out about 6 months to a year in advance. So we know the schedule. We know when opening day is. We know when Jackie Robinson Day is. We know when the Giants are coming to town. So we kind of work off that calendar, of course. How do we manage our project intake? Especially during our busy time. People think I'm joking, but I liken it to an emergency room. So I say, how do we handle all the project intake? Triage.
Yeah.
so that probably sounds familiar to people who are in any type of creative role. But yes, definitely triage. So the bigger projects, AKA the gunshots, they get moved, to the front of the line. And, the person that comes in with a little headache, which might be like a smaller sales flyer or something that's not needed for a couple of weeks, that gets pushed down the line.
Mm-hmm. Do you have people who are pretending a headache feels like a gunshot, so they get put to the front of the line?
I don't know if they're pretending.
Yeah,
I don't know if they're pretending. I really think that they do. Each person believes that their project is the most important, naturally.
That makes sense. As it relates, so obviously the unpredictability or the consistent inconsistencies, as you put it, which is great. If you had to whittle it down in your position, what is the biggest challenge that you face on like a day-to-day level?
Well, it's funny. Remember, I'm not a routine person, so I kind of like appreciate these little issues or problems that pop up from day to day. It kind of keeps my life exciting. um, I'm kind of joking and I'm not joking, but I'd say the biggest challenge for a creative in sports is you're really trying to change perspectives in an old school industry. Baseball as a professional sport has been around for over 150 years. Dedicated marketing departments weren't a thing in pro sports until 30 years ago, maybe 20 years ago. Now you're talking about creatives coming in house. And then even then, you're talking about one person, you know, one person who was laying out a fax cover sheet or a sales flyer. Now fast forward to now, we have like I'd say 95% of all the pro sports teams, and I'm including D1 athletic programs in this too, have a full on staff of creatives. For instance, I have a team of creatives. I have 2 graphic designers and I have 2 motion graphics designers on my team. I also have the manager of procurement on my team because so much of when you go to a game and you get a bobblehead or you get some kind of giveaway item, that's all part of our ticket sales. So since it's such a creative process getting those items done, concepted, and made, that has fallen under me as well in the creative realm. So anyways, back to the original question, changing perspectives in the old school industry. What the top execs in sports pretty much are thinking, like, there's non-revenue and there's revenue departments, right? So who are we gonna give the big bucks to? We're gonna give the big bucks to the revenue departments, to the revenue people. You're a service department. You're graphic design. You're creative. You're in stadium ops. You guys are non-revenue, and we're really trying to get past that. It's starting to happen. You're starting to see VPs of creatives in pro sports. That has only started happening in the last 3-4 years. So it's just trying to change those perspectives. It's like, hey, as a creative, like, we're giving you all the tools. We're giving the revenue departments all the tools for them to be successful. Flyers or sales pieces, brochures, logos. We're helping the partnership department with mock-ups of signage, mock-ups of sponsor logos, and we're actively creating items that increase ticket sales. So guess what? We're a revenue department. And so that's the kind of perspective that I'm trying to change, and we're all kind of trying to change in this industry, and that's been probably the biggest challenge.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think there's a lot of crossover, obviously, with us working at a creative agency. We work with designers, animators, motion designers, all that stuff as well. I was curious, since all of this kind of falls under your kind of your leadership, when we, let's say, are doing a campaign and there's a digital component, there's a in-person component, we're trying to find, specialists that, are really a good fit for kind of each of those different experiences and how like an audience would consume that content. And I think it's hard, and maybe this is a generalization, hard sometimes to find someone who's really good at all of that. Like they can do something and express the visual identity digitally, as well as like think about what it would look like in game or in person or at an event. When you kind of like have built your team, how do you guys separate or segment your design team at the Dodgers? Is there people who are mostly just focused with, okay, you guys are going to be in-game experience designers, you guys are going to be digital, you guys are going to be all things motion, or do you try to find like those unicorns that can kind of do all of those things?
A little bit of both. I have two really talented graphic designers on my staff. And they pretty much, anything that's not animated, they have to know how to do. So you're talking about, they need to know how to put together online newsletters. They need to put together graphics for our LED system here, which we have about 12 different sizes of screens here at Dodger Stadium.
Sure. Yeah.
They have to know how to put together print. They have to know how to put together a package design for a bobblehead or for any kind of promotional item. They have to know how to set up art for a T-shirt. So yes, they do need to kind of be a jack of all trades when it comes to graphic design. They need to know the digital side. They need to know the print side. Our motion guys obviously are a little more specialized. So anytime you come to a Dodger game and you see like the big, moving headshots, with all the crazy animations, and you got the music blaring, which is all part of the in-stadium experience. We have so much of that going on. I would say we probably have the most pixels of any ballpark in baseball. If not, we're definitely top 5. So we basically need two motion graphics guys to be able to get us through a full season. And of course, they work on other things too, like for our broadcasts and for our video team. They'll help them out with lower thirds and anything, any kind of moving graphics. They need 3D art. So they're a little more specialized, but yeah. You kind of, even they sometimes need to jump in and help on the graphics side. We try to not do that, but again, triage.
Yeah, you're in the ER, baby. You're in the ER. We got to figure it out. That's awesome. Right. Well, so Dodgers have one of the most storied brands in all of baseball. And so brand building is like such a big part of, who y'all are. And then you're kind of trying to tie that with marketing, and that can, be challenging. Can you tell us about a time where you took maybe like a really crazy creative risk that either paid off or like completely failed, and what lesson you kind of learned from that? Well,
I'd rather not go into my failures because there's just way too many of those to count. I also try to not remember all those times I fell flat on my face, which is at least 3 or 4 times a week. But one risk we really took as a creative team was in 2021 when we built our visual brand marketing campaign for that year. And you got to remember, this is the year we're coming off of winning the World Series, which was awesome in 2020. Every year we try to do an agency-like pitch to our executives. We create the whole look for a season, and we do 3 different campaigns basically for our execs to choose from. I mean, it's a bear of a project, and every year we try to do one option that is out there. And for 2 or 3 seasons, we kept trying to push trying to push the envelope a little more with our creative for the next season. And, management was always a little bit averse to taking that big of a jump and a risk. Well, in 2021, we were able to kind of go away from the traditional Dodger blue color scheme and did some very non-traditional stuff. And it was awesome. And the way we pitched it is, look, we're the champs. We can do anything we want.
Yeah.
You know,
so
people
great.
are feeling good about us. And, you know, hey, social media, you know, 95% of the comments are negative, right? I go, hey, when you win the championship, you kind of buy yourself a little goodwill for I don't know how many months or weeks. So that's how we pitched it. And with this visual campaign, we took cues from like Kanye album covers, high end fashion, and we went for a look that we were using like gold plated lions and gold plated gloves and baseballs. We had like these luxury patterns that we kind of aped off like Gucci and Louis and all these other luxury brands, right? And behind the scenes, I mean, we didn't pitch it this way, but behind the scenes, we called it, the creative team called it like tacky opulence. It's kind of like what an outsider might think someone in Beverly Hills, how they kind of live their lives, you know. It's kind of like this reality TV type of vibe. So we took a swing on that. Shockingly, our CMO, Lon Rosen, said to run with it, and we ran with it in 2021. We ended up winning a graphic design. I have the plaque back here. Graphic Design USA award for branding that year, and it was just a nice feather in our cap. Like, you know, we've been pushing this, you know, these more out there looks on our execs for years, and finally we got the go ahead, and it ended up paying off for us.
That's great. I remember vividly when you guys introduced the gold the season after the winning the I think I dropped like $700 on merch, the commemorative jersey with the, you know, the championship jersey, the hat, all of it. It was so.
I think that jersey alone cost like $500. Yeah. It was ridiculous. Yeah. It was ridiculous.
But it's so sick.
I'm like, is there real gold in there?
Yeah.
Yeah, we even had to tone it down a little bit because our ownership was seeing how it was playing out in stadium, and they liked it. But one of our owners was like, I cannot look at that gold lowrider jumping up and down for 81 games a year. We're like, okay,
totally.
Okay, we got you.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. What would you say as of like right now? What is your brand like most excited about? Stuff you're working on or things coming down the pipe? What's like getting you excited to come into work every day?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm excited to come to work every day. There's never been a day where I've really dreaded coming into work. And I know I'm super fortunate to be able to say that. We're excited about a lot of things. So we're one of those teams that we change our visuals, we change our campaign every season. Who knows, that might change in the future. We might go all out on a campaign and say this is a 3-year campaign. But because the mood of our fan base changes so often, like this past season, you know, we had kind of a disappointing end to in the postseason, and we kind of didn't get to where we wanted to be in the end. And you know, we have to wait most years to kind of see where the team finishes, because we really want to gauge the mood of the fan base, of our consumer, and see where their heads are at. Obviously, they were not very happy with us coming into this year. So our marketing and our whole look kind of reflected that. You know, it's a little more subdued. I don't know if you notice, you know, on our socials, you know, it's a little more subdued in 23. You know, it's still great. It's still an awesome look, but, you know, we're not going to go with the gold lowrider after a disappointing finish in the postseason. So we do change that up every year. So I'm, of course, excited about what we can potentially come up with for 2024. Hopefully we have a storybook ending. And next time I talk to you guys, I have another ring on my finger and we're the champs again and we got the gold going on. But I'm excited about that. What lies ahead. I'm excited about that every year, but more specifically, I'm very excited about this Nike City Connect uniform that we worked on over the past year, and that's going to debut in 2024. I think the fans are going to be very excited about this, and I don't want to drop too much information about it. It's very, very top secret. I mean, I got the sample socks in the mail the other day, and my CMO is like, don't let anybody see that. I mean, you know how it is. You see those leaks, like, these teams' uniforms get leaked like, before their big unveil. And it's like, it's just a downer.
Yep.
Do you have them with you right now?
I do. I'm actually looking
Let's
at
take a look.
Yeah. I wish I could, guys. I really wish.
It's just
I
a
could.
test.
Yeah.
I'm super excited about it. We worked with Nike. It was me, our merchandise department, our executives at Nike worked on something really exciting for our 2024 City Connect uniform. And I know this isn't a sports podcast. It's not a baseball podcast. So everyone might not be familiar with what the City Connect program is. It's basically an additional alternate uniform that each team can wear. And it doesn't really have to relate to the team's branding. It kind of flies in the face of, my old school branding thoughts, but the uniform is actually supposed to represent more of your region or your city, your area. We had talked about the Reds off camera before. The Reds just debuted their City Connect, and it says Cincy across the front. It's got some local cues that maybe the locals appreciate and know about, but maybe the rest of the country isn't super familiar with. We went very conservative. Our first crack at the City Connect program, it had mixed reviews, and so we decided for this next round of City Connect uniforms, we're going to go all out. We're going to look different than the regular Dodger uniform. We're taking cues from like the aerospace industry that helped build LA, kind of that bigger picture thought of the pursuit, the look into the future. And it's going to be unlike anything Dodger fans have ever seen before. The colors are just going to be like a shock to the system. The uniform is going to be a shock to the system, but it's going to be good.
You're getting me gassed up, dude. This as a fan, like this is the stuff that gets people so excited. Like, Reddit's already clamoring about what the new City Connect's going to look like. People doing their own mock-ups of like, here's what it might look like because we, saw a Twitter post about something. So, dude, I can't wait. I'm super excited for it.
Yo, you're gonna be floored when you see it.
I'll just send you my money now, dude. And you just, my money, and here's my credit card and my jersey size, and I'll be the first in line.
We got you, man.
Rad. Josh, I'll let you take over. I've been talking a lot.
Cool. Okay. So Ross, our podcast is called Best Story Wins. And that's really rooted in the belief that storytelling, brand storytelling is the best way to differentiate, compete, and then ultimately win in your market. So I'd love to hear a little bit about how you relate to telling a brand story, what a brand story is, and also what you see the keys are to telling a great brand story well.
Yeah. From a sports perspective, most of what I'm going to be telling you is from a sports perspective, obviously. That's the industry I came up in, and that's what I'm working in now. I would say there's three things that make a great story. And, this might not apply to like soap or something, but, I'm in sports, so this is kind of what I think makes for a great brand. One, authenticity. I think you have to really lean into that. Like for instance, like the Dodgers, um, we're a part of the culture in LA. Going to a Dodger game for better, whether you're a baseball fan or not. Um, you might not even know anything about baseball, but chances are, if you live in LA, you're going to be at Dodger Stadium at some point in the summer. you're just gonna be here. Your friends are going to bring you here, or there's going to be some kind of event here. So we're a part of that fabric of the LA culture, and we do lean into that a lot, and it doesn't feel forced. It just feels real, you know. I'd say the second thing is confidence. You kind of when you're putting your brand out there, you want to be able to stand on your two legs and say, "Hey, this is us." For better or worse, this is us. And the third thing, I like to call it hot sauce, and that's just like, hey, we might not show this or use this all the time. This is like, um, but we can get a little spicy. We have a couple surprises up our sleeves. We might, shock you every now and then. And I think those three things add up to a great brand.
Yeah, that's really cool. I've never heard the term hot sauce before, but I think we might have to steal that one. Or borrow
Ask
that
my
one.
team. Ask my team. I'm like, no, we need some hot sauce, guys. We need some hot sauce.
Yeah, well, that's really cool. Or are there any other ways that you guys tell your brand story in super unique ways beyond what we've already discussed? I mean, hearing you talk about the City Connect program, like that to me seems like a really cool way of telling this really storied brand's story in a new way, in an exciting way, and in a way that extends beyond what people are used to. But are there any other things, beyond what we've already discussed, that you're like, this is something that's unique to the Dodgers organization, or maybe just unique to the current team that we have right now?
I'm not sure if this is unique to us, but every year, like I was talking about, we put together an internal team, and we create this whole brand campaign for the upcoming year. I mean, we're talking from slogan to visuals to tone, um, and it's great. We even have non-creatives on the team, just so we can get a little more of that outside perspective. Because sometimes as creatives, we're kind of looking at our own stuff, and we kind of like lose that big picture view. So this past year, we did invite some non-creatives on board just to get their perspectives, and it worked out great. So we do that, and then we're so fortunate to be able to deploy these assets that we come up with, these visual assets and these tonal assets, and these storytelling assets. We're able to deploy those digitally, through print, all the way through wearables and other kinds of merchandise, broadcast. Um, so the consumer, the fan, um, uh, you know, that kind of gives them like a time and place. Part of it that is to give like these, the moments that happen on the field, or they're more personal moments, kind of like this time and place. And the consumer's kind of immersed in these consistent visuals, like billboards, social media, promo item packaging, the in stadium look with all the LEDs going on. And it's all tied together with the experience of baseball. So, like, from a fan perspective, it's almost like they're in a VR, but it's in real life, if that makes sense. I mean, I think sports is one of the few places you can do that. It's like you get this experiential thing, and we're hitting you from every angle with these visuals, with our brand messaging, with our tone. And it's almost like you got the goggles on and you're surrounded by all this Dodger creative, but really it's all to enhance the experience of you being at the stadium, or the experience of watching baseball. I know it's just, to me, it's like, I don't know if that makes sense. It's like real VR. I don't know. But that's why I like to put it, like virtual reality, but in real life.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm obviously a little bit biased as just being a Dodger fan, but I'm a huge baseball fan in general. I've been to, a majority of the professional stadiums and seen games all over the country. And I can just the experience of going to a Dodger game, people who have never been don't like, dude, it's not just the visuals and obviously now with the renovation of, the center field pavilion and all that stuff, but the live mariachi bands, just the energy in the stadium from the fans. It's like, dude, this is like, I think when people think of baseball, who maybe aren't big fans of baseball, like, oh, well, we'll go to a game and it'll be a couple hours and it'll be quiet. And I'm like, no, it's a party for 2.5 to 3 hours at Dodger Stadium. And the energy is just like electric, And it's like, dude, that all was intentional and came from somewhere that I think people like, talking with you is, yeah, there's a lot of thinking that goes on behind the scenes to make that possible that people, just aren't really aware of.
Very much so. And, we love to give people value for their ticket price, whether they came in on a $15 ticket on up to a $10,000 ticket. You know what I mean? Like, and you're a baseball fan, you've gone to other parks. And this is no knock against any other team, but we do it a little differently here at Dodger Stadium. And it is very much a conscious decision to really immerse the fan. So when you're here, you're getting, we almost want it to be like your first time going down the strip in Las Vegas. Like we almost want it to be sensory overload, but in a good way, and then hopefully we hooked you if you're a casual fan, or if you're a first time fan. And then you kind of experience that as a baseball fan after that.
Yeah. That's super cool. Yeah, it's funny. I was actually at the Angels game last night. My oldest son is a big Angels fan. So I took him to see them beat the White Sox in a very close game. And he's been to probably 10 Angels games over the last season and a half. And I haven't taken him to a Dodgers game yet. And it's not because I don't want him to be a Dodgers fan, but it's more because I don't want to take him there, because then when we go to the Angels games, he's going to be like, Dad, this isn't the same. And we're going to have to navigate that. And obviously the Dodger Stadium
well, Josh,
is going to be like 2 hours away.
I got to tell you right now, I got you, man. I got you.
Nice. Yeah, we'll be up there.
Doesn't have to be a Dodger fan. Just come on out and have a good time.
Awesome. Yeah, I've finally come to the conclusion that you can be fans of both teams because they're in separate leagues. But
this is heavily debatable. This is heavily debatable, Ross. This is heavily debatable.
You know what? I got to agree a little bit, only because I grew up on the west side of LA. Of course, like I grew up coming to Dodger games. I've been coming to Dodger games since I was 6 years old. Right. I'm a Dodger fan. I was a Dodger fan first and foremost, but I was also a huge baseball fan. I grew up playing baseball. So, I watched whomever was on TV, and, we didn't have the options back in the 80s that the kids do now. So I'm talking, if the Angels were on, I watched the Angels, and I was an Angels fan. And I was a big fan of like Wally Joyner and Reggie Jackson. And I watched Cubs games. They came on at 11 a.m. In the summertime. They're on WGN, and I'm like, ooh, baseball.
Dude, I love it. Because me and Josh have different parenting tactics here. Because, Josh is like, hey, explore the different teams and like who you like. And I told my kids, look, you can cheer for whatever team you want in football, in hockey, in basketball. When it comes to baseball, y'all are Dodger fans. So just know that from the get-go.
Hey,
so,
it's kind of
different tactics.
It's kind of passed down generation to generation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's more of a logistical concern right now because Angel Stadium is 15 minutes away and Dodger Stadium is about almost 2 hours away. But yeah, my dad grew up just down the street from the stadium. And, just like you, Ross, I started going to games when I was a little guy as well. So all my early memories of baseball, and probably most of my memories of experiencing baseball, has been at Dodger Stadium, or have been at Dodger Stadium. But yeah, it's funny hearing you guys talk about like that experience, because I think every team is probably trying more or less to do the same thing, which is like create this amazing experience for their fans. But I would have to agree that no one does it like you guys. And so I think that's a testament to your team and what you guys do. And I just want to say, keep it up, man, because it's working. Yeah. And on that note, just kind of stepping back a little bit, like we've been talking a lot about all the different things you guys do. And like, it's just been so informative for me to be talking to you right now because when I think of, design or heading up a brand at an organization, most of that understanding comes from the lens of having worked with a lot of B2B brands over the years. But you guys just have so much that you're doing. There's in-stadium experiences, there's broadcasts, there's stuff you're doing preseason. Probably, I think, during games, you're probably trying to figure out how to respond to certain events as well. There's just a lot there. But is there a central kind of brand ethos or brand philosophy that informs what you guys do? And if so, how do you help to ensure that everything's maintained and really consistent? Because there's just so many touch points and ways for people to experience the brand.
I think for us, at least for me, the main thing we want to do is keep creating. The Dodgers have this reputation in pro sports as a pioneering organization. So, like, obviously, the big ones like Jackie Robinson. We had the first Australian player in MLB. We had the first Korean player in MLB. We had the first, believe it or not, we had the first video big screen in Major League Baseball that came in 1980 at the All-Star game. So the Dodgers we were the first baseball team to have a number on the front of our jerseys. Believe it or not. So, we have this kind of this history and this tradition of being first, pioneering. And, we keep that in mind in our work. We were the first Major League Baseball team to have a matte batting helmet with a 3D logo. And, more than half the league has that now. So we're always looking for ways to kind of innovate and be new. It's so funny because it's like this. It's this weird juxtaposition, right? Because when you think of the Dodgers are like a very traditional team, right? You think of that's a very old traditional team. We wear traditional uniforms. We wear white at home and gray on the road, and we have this very kind of traditional visual language to our brand, the script and the shooting ball and all that. But really, we're this traditional team with traditional elements that's trying to find the next new thing. So it is that weird juxtaposition, like I said, but that's what we're going for.
Yeah, I love it. I'm going to maybe just ask two more here. But one that I wanted to ask is, or a question I wanted to ask is, as creatives, whether it's design, animation, just, you're a professional at this, but you're also a consumer, right? Like you see things out in the wild that are like, ooh, I like that. Are there any trends that you're seeing now, or maybe where you're drawing inspiration from, or where you generally draw inspiration from to kind of feed your creative soul and then, flush that back into your team? Where do you draw inspiration from creatively, kind of outside of work?
That's a tough question. It's a great question. It's a tough question for me to answer because I'm always trying to straddle that line between being inspired, but also creating things that others will be inspired by. It's so funny when we get the internal team together to create the seasonal campaign. One of the things I always say is, don't look to other teams. Don't look at other sports teams for what to do. Don't look at other sports teams for inspiration. I want other sports teams to look to us for their inspiration. And I kind of have always had that mentality. When you're in design school, you always have those kids that, they're always looking through design books, and you go to their house and they've got a book, bookshelves full of all these design books, and they're like, look at this. And I always made it a point to never have any design books in my library. I look at them, I thumb through them. If someone has them, I was like, oh, this is cool. But I try to take more inspiration from everyday things. So, and that could be anything. It could be when you're driving down the freeway, and you see, like the other day I was driving, and I saw one of those, like, what do you call them? Like an emergency. It was one of those portable LEDs, and the way the type like was flashing on that portable LED, and then there was like a few bulbs out. I was like, oh, I don't know why, but that looks cool to me, and I'm gonna somehow use that one day. But I don't know. It's just like those things kind of just hit you, and when it's least expected, I think those are the best. Those are the best forms of inspiration.
Yeah, I love that. We kind of, I mean, obviously we serve two completely different, markets, but I think there's some commonalities there where a lot of times we'll have, clients come to us and say, we want your help creativity, creating some net new design assets, a website, landing page, whatever it is. And then they'll show like these affinity links and be like, here's what like our competition is doing. We want to do something like this. And it's always our, polite, professional way of responding is like, you don't want to look like everybody else. Let's figure out what's going to make you look drastically different than the people. But I think it like human nature is, oh, this is where we play. We have to kind of like fit in here. Right. And it's like, no. What would it look like if we took ourselves out of that and did something completely new? What would that look like?
For sure. And, like especially in pro sports, and big time college sports, like we had to be really careful creatively because sports is such a copycat industry. So you're talking like, in football, everyone tried to copy try to run the West Coast offense after the Niners did in the 80s, right? Everyone's trying to be like the Warriors now in the NBA, now that they've proven you can win a championship with a perimeter team. In baseball, everyone's gone to the analytics now, where it's funny. It's like, I don't even know where analytics gets you now because everyone's using the same analytics, right? So everyone's gone analytics crazy, but it's just, it's just very copycat. But the same goes for the creative. If you look at a lot of pro sports teams, college athletic programs, a lot of their graphics are looking very similar. You know what I mean? And we consciously try to get away from that. Yes, we fall into that a little bit because I think it's what's expected. But at the same time, when we do have that roundtable of creatives before the season, and we're going with we're creating those visuals, I've had these rules for the last few years. I don't want to see any wrinkled paper. I don't want to see any of these weird thin circles. I don't want to see any of these like paintbrush fonts. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying they're done. That trend's over, and it might not be technically over, but it's done for us.
It's over. Yeah. Awesome. That's so cool. Okay, last question from me, and then I'll hand it back over to Josh. You got to tell me your favorite. I mean, you grew up a Dodger fan, so your favorite Dodger moment. If you had to, nail it down to one, what's your favorite Dodger moment in your career, in your life?
Well, I mean, that's an easy one. I'm going to go with the same moment that is probably the moment for most people around my age, and I'm going to be aging myself, unfortunately. It's Kirk Gibson's 1988 World Series Game 1 home run. But I'm going to tell you the whole backstory around that. I mean, it was a great baseball moment. It might be the greatest. I mean, I think it was voted the greatest sports moment in LA history. But for me, it just means a lot to me because, I was a terrible student. Okay. That's probably why I'm in the creative realm. But I was a terrible student. I was, I think, in 8th grade at the time, and I just got a terrible report card. I was grounded, and I couldn't watch TV or be on the phone or any of that. But one thing, and my dad was, he was a hard ass when I was a kid. I'm the first son. The one thing he always did, and I'll always appreciate about him, is that he would always let me watch baseball. So even if I was grounded, oh, you could watch baseball. So I was able to watch that moment unfold. I remember exactly where I was in my parents' house on the leather couch. And, I remember who was over at my house. But I'll just always be thankful to my dad for giving me that reprieve from my punishment so I could witness the moment.
Oh, dude, I can't even imagine. I think our dads are probably a little bit similar, but not my Dodger one, but one of the baseball moments that I'll remember is kind of the same situation. It was really late at night, but he let me stay up late to watch Aaron Boone hit that walk off against the Red Sox in that the Yankees postseason. And my dad was my dad's very reserved. And he leapt off the couch at 12 a.m. Midnight, just screaming. And we weren't even Yankee fans, but he's like, I can't believe that just happened. I can't believe that just happened. So there's certain moments like that just burn in your memory. All right, Josh, I'll let you take us home.
Yeah. Great. Okay. So kind of last question here too. Ross, I'm actually going to backtrack a little bit. There was a question here about like what skills have helped you the most. I think that might be a good one to end on. And then we'll just basically ask like any final tips to share and how can people find you? Sound good?
Yeah, there's also that, and then the biggest mistakes you see brands make.
Oh, you want to ask that?
I had a couple thoughts on those.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Let's skip the tips one, and we'll jump into that one, and then
Sure.
We'll wind down. Cool. So Ross, we spent a good amount of time talking about how to tell a brand story effectively. What goes into telling a good brand story. Where do you see some brands falling into trouble here? Are there any examples that come to mind where you see people really just blowing it, or are there common threads, maybe certain channels or format types where you see things not working?
I'm going to bring it back to sports again. I think when there's too much explanation or I guess marketing speak, I know it's like a catch-22 because that's kind of what we as creatives and marketers are paid to do, right? But I'm talking about when marketing speak is almost like inferring that the consumer is an idiot or doesn't get it. It could be a little damaging. So from a brand perspective, I think if you're not respecting your consumer, in other words, and again, talking about sports and sports teams, I think when you're only pushing winning or past glory as your brand, like you've made winning and championships, rings, titles, then that's your brand. It's cool. Like I'm not saying don't bring that up and don't be proud of that and don't lean into that sometimes for certain things. But I think it's a little lazy, and I also think it's not sustainable. I think fans are consumers. I think they want fresh. I think they want something new. I think they want to look forward to something. I think they want to know what's next. So I think if you're leaning too much into past glory, you're kind of falling into that like Al Bundy realm. And although it's funny, it's also a little sad. So I think those are a couple mistakes I see, and I don't think they're necessarily mistakes. I think they're decisions that just don't really resonate.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, Ross, it's been so great chatting with you. Thanks for being on. Are there any final tips or thoughts you'd like to share with our listeners?
Any final tips? I just live by this, and I have 3 daughters that play softball, so I kind of have told this to them their whole lives too. But I go by the mantra: never get caught looking. And I'm sorry, I always got to bring it back to baseball, but baseball is like my life. Never get caught looking. When you get your opportunity, when you get your turn at bat, take a big swing. And if you're going to go down swinging.
Heck yeah.
And I
That's so
think
good.
we got to live our lives that way. We got that's the best way to live your life.
Yeah, totally agree. Well, thanks again, Ross. If people want to learn more about you and follow you online for the journey, where's the best place for them to find you online? Is it Instagram or LinkedIn or somewhere else?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm also on Instagram and Twitter with the handle at RYDesignLA. I haven't tweeted as much in the past year. I've gotten busy, but I could shoot out a good tweet every couple months. So follow me there, and on Instagram, you'll see a lot of pictures of my family and my dogs. Like I will like post some funny memes in my stories. So see you there.
I love it.
Cool. Thanks so much, Ross.
Thanks a lot, guys.